we're gonna do the thing. We're gonna do the thing. What is the thing? The thing is finally ripping the arse out of me doing a weekly podcast because it's something I've wanted to do. I'm 33 now. I've been listening to podcasts, I guess, since I was 20, maybe a little bit younger. I felt like it would be a really aligned way for me to lead my life, not as my main income source, although that would potentially be nice if this went well, but because on the journey of me becoming who I am, up to the point of where I am now, I've learned a lot of different skills. I have learned a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff. And I have felt like I'm at a position where I'm very good at having a conversation with somebody smarter than me in different areas to understand more about those things. I also get a lot of pretty good ideas that I sometimes don't put out to the world, to the detriment of the world, as egotistical as that might sound. So I'm going to just rip the arse out of this and start doing a weekly podcast, whether it be by myself and monologuing a little bit on whatever things I think will bring value to the type of people who I'd like to be friends with and have in my coaching program, or on great weeks where I can make the connection and collaboration, sit with other experts in different areas and interesting people that I want to have conversations with to have those interesting conversations. And what we're going to start out with is last night I went to Jimmy Carr. Everybody knows him as somebody who's incredibly funny. Some people that have been paying attention to his content over the last couple of years will also know that he is very intelligent and very emotionally intelligent. Because when we went to this gig last night, laughed endlessly, as you can expect, something that my partner did not expect because she only sees the random reels and different bits. She's not as podcast locked in as I am of listening to hours of it every week on all kinds of different pieces. She didn't realize that he would go into the depths of speaking about male loneliness, male depression, male suicide, and everything around mental health and feeling okay. And one thing that he talked about, framed as a joke, but with the depth of giving the understanding that it's true. He pointed out the difference between men and women on how we have friendships. And he's framed it as every man in this audience, you have to go to therapy once a week, non negotiable. Women, you can do it if you want. It was a joke because he's like, yeah, women probably need therapy too, but women and their friends talk. They talk about their feelings. They're better naturally at being able to hold space for each other and make them feel good when they're having a bad day. Men do things together and think that we talk about things. In my circles, most of us actually have started to learn to talk and share feelings when we need that. But a lot of men will think going to the pub and having drinks with the lads is them talking about what's holding them back, what's bringing them down, what problems they have in their life. A lot of us don't really do that. And a lot of us that stop going to pubs and go to the gym to train and do all of the stuff that's really good for your body, we fall into a habit of thinking that that's enough for your mental health. You're like, yeah, go to the gym with me, bro, twice a week, 3 times a week, chase the pump, and it's good for the mental health. It's not bad for the mental health, but I have found anything can be turned into a distraction from dealing with your poor mental health if you dig into it hard enough. And I think there's a lot of us out there that think doing that is enough when really you have to be able to talk about it. And the framing Mr. Carr gave was, when's the last time you and your best mate were able to sit together and one of you looked each other, well, you looked each other in the eye and said, I love you, man. And he's like, I know exactly what's going to happen if you look your friend in the eye and say, I love you, man. He's going to go, gay. And it's how the audience reacted because he got two men at the front of the audience to look each other in the eye and he built it up and he's like, in a couple of seconds, I'm going to ask you to say, I love you to your best friend, eye to eye. He's like, the rest of you, no, don't shout it, don't shout it. And he's like, three, two, one, they say, I love you. The whole audience, gay. All a joke because everyone can understand the balance of what he's trying to talk about and where he's trying to take this. But it's a great highlight to the benefit of being able to share your feelings openly with a man that you trust. And this is to encourage whoever happens to listen to this to open up better dialogues with your friends. And it's great to laugh. And in my friend groups, we laugh a lot. We do a lot of taking the piss out of each other. Everybody has absolutely abhorrent nicknames. One dude in the program, his name is Dave. He is known as Fat Dave. He is also made fun of for being a kiddie fiddler when he's not. This is like how a lot of men interact. When he gets made fun of for those things, he laughs to his soul. You can see every single part of him moving, largely because he's a large fella, so everything jiggles around and it's getting less jiggly every week. The other example Mr. Carr gave is like, for example, if a lady turns to her friend and says, I feel fat, she will say, you are so beautiful, you are a wonderful creature, and you should not feel that way. When a man turns to his friend and says, I feel fat, you go, yeah, you fat homo. You are fat. Lose some weight. We have different ways of interacting. And I don't want to change how men interact with each other because by nature, us doing that can create a relatively more comfortable space to be able to open up, knowing that there's going to be a bit of laughter around it, but laughing with you, not laughing at you, to make it a little bit more comfortable to open up about what's holding you back. Because the reality of the world is an untold amount of men kill themselves every single day. And it happens because they don't share the deep, dark parts of them. They don't open up and say, I'm feeling down, or I've been feeling depressed, or lonely, or purposeless for weeks, months, maybe years, feeling like nobody cares. When in a lot of the men's workspaces that I've been in over the past couple of years, nothing could be further from the truth. There's times where I've walked into a retreat group of 12 men that I've never met before in my entire life, brand new people, have no reason to want to care for me, and I have no reason to want to care for them, except for that internal drive for tribe to want everybody to succeed. We share our deepest, darkest parts of ourselves and support and care and look at each other with love and hold the space for each other. Not because we're all full of some kind of magic and we're different to everybody else, just because we've allowed ourselves to sit in that space and hold that space for other men and do the work, knowing that it might make the impact to the rest of the world. My coaching program, the BetterMan program, which I will endlessly promote on this podcast, which may come across as though I'm just trying to push and grow a business. I am, but it's bigger than that. My mission is helping 1 million men over the course of my career to be the best version of themselves. And that sounds a bit egotistical. It sounds a little bit vague, and it sounds potentially too big for any one man to do. And it is. That is why I'm putting out content to get every single man that listens to this to help me on that mission. Because the only way I'll do this is if I can scale and build a level of brand where enough people can see me. Because there's no way in the gym, in physical one to one interactions, that over the next 10 to 20 years, I can sit with a million people one to one. That's not going to work. But I know that if I put enough effort into putting good into the world and helping one man at a time, who will then in return help other men the same way they've been helped, I'll get that done. And I believe it is my purpose. It is what I am good at, and it's what I feel the most aligned in doing when I'm in the middle of helping another man through something challenging. That is my purpose. That is what I'm here for. There is times where I have a one-to-one conversation with somebody who's struggling with something in their life that I just get to hold a mirror up to them, because that's all coaching really is holding a mirror up and letting you see what you need to see. But sometimes you just need a little bit of guidance on where to look. And even this past week, one of my new but closest growing friends in my life, Kian, he is an incredible videographer. And that is what I knew him as when we first started. And then he layered into telling me that he was on a journey of becoming a psychotherapist and counselor and coach. And in all of that space, he offered up to do a session, a conversation with me to run through some of the frameworks of what he does to see can he help me to feel better, to find some area in my life where I can find some improvements. And I feel very comfortable with sharing this. We recorded both of the sessions that we did, and he may put them up at some point when he feels comfortable doing it. The first conversation, and this is going to be a place of vulnerability for me talking about it. So if you're listening to this is your cue to know that it's okay to be vulnerable because I'm putting this out to who knows how many people on the internet to hear my inner, darker, deeper parts of my psyche. I went to a wedding with my partner recently, and I'm not somebody that goes into a lot of social situations in the traditional sense these days because I've been sober for 1200 plus days. That's its own story. I, for a long time, have not been excited about going to pubs, to clubs, to events where there's alcohol and music and loudness and all of that kind of buzz, where that used to be me in early 20s. Pubs, clubs, 4 or 5 nights a week, while still training, while still eating the right food, on that hedonistic treadmill of chasing to find women, to find purpose, to find value, to find people seeing me and valuing me for me being jacked and exciting and who can drink the most points. At some point, I saw through the fog of the smoke that there wasn't value to my life in doing that over and over and over again. And in my journey of changing from being just a physique coach to leaning into wanting to help more men, to get the help that I found from breath work, from mentors, from meditation, from journaling, now with where's my Bible? From God, from the church, from all of those things that are available to you to make a foundational part of your life, that I wanted a little bit more. And when you start to get to that stage, it becomes difficult to be present in a moment in, for this example, a wedding, where I've come into a room where I know the bride and groom, I love the bride and groom, the two of the best people and, to be honest, best parents I've ever seen. That's probably another conversation. And if you're listening to this, maybe haven't told you this in person, but I hope, pray, and wish that I can be half as good as a parent as what I've witnessed between you and your kids. Never seen somebody be so present with the children while also still being present with friends. They're wonderful people. I knew maybe 5 other people in that room. I didn't have a common ground with those people, or at least I felt like I didn't. If I was able to relax into the space, I probably would have found a lot more common ground with these people. Because I end up, when I'm in a situation like that, worried that people are going to have surface level conversations. And the way my head works, I look for productivity, efficiency, and things that will improve my mission. So when I have a conversation with somebody like, oh, this room is brown. This room's not brown, but where I was brown. The weather is weathering, isn't it? Those conversations, if I'm honest, frustrate me because I'm like, I don't want to talk about this. I want to talk about beginning of the universe. I want to talk about the emotional framework of how we become the human that we grow up to be. I want to talk about all. I want to talk about aliens sometimes. Lately, I've been wanting to talk a lot more about Bible and God and Jesus since that's come way more into my life. But it means that I struggle to want to have the small talk. And as a result, when I'm in that situation, my body tightens up, my mind closes off, my breath gets a little faster, and I have to work to pull into the breath work that's become so natural to me in so many other stressful situations that I can't be relaxed and present with my partner or the new people that I meet. So when my good friend came and asked me, is there anything that I could help you with in the scope of psychotherapy, counseling, and coaching? I was like, you know what? Had you asked me last week before that event, I'd be like, nah, I'm probably all right for now. There's stuff to work on, but I want to be better at relaxing into those social situations so that I can show up better for my partner and so that I can enjoy myself more. And we went through a framework of understanding the belief, the what I'm imagining, what I'm feeling, everything around that situation to understand what triggers are coming up. And some of you listening might go, he said, trigger, is he a snowflake? Triggers, I prefer to be able to be activated than triggered. This is something I've talked about in a couple of the courses that I have in the BetterMan Skool community. It's not a pitch. It is a pitch, but it's not a pitch. We'll put a link to that down below. Triggered, in my mind, is when something in the environment or some kind of stimulus triggers an uncontrollable reaction from your psyche, where you do not have the ability to choose how you react to a situation. I prefer to know that I can become activated. Activated can lead to you responding instead of you reacting. You understand what I'm talking about here? Triggering and activation, it's the same thing, but two different paths. We have ways that our mind is built together. We have lived the lives that we have lived, and certain things will elicit a response or a reaction from us. There's no way that we can unprogram that. If you have burned your hand on the stove, this is going to be quoting Hormozy, well, paraphrasing Hormozy. Trauma is the result of something negative that's happened to you that's now retrained a behavior as to how you respond or react to that trauma coming back into your life. So the Hormozy example, when you burn your hand on the stove because you've touched it as a kid because you're stupid, you take your hand away and you know, oh, I won't do that again. You've built a trauma response in your head to say, if I touch that hob, it's going to burn my hand. That is probably a useful traumatic response because you've trained in a behavior that now you're not going to do that again. Or if you do it again, you know to move the hand away quickly. When it comes to emotional triggers and activations and responses and reactions, they're a little bit harder to catch and they're a little bit harder to understand where they've come from. But for me, in those social situations where I don't feel comfortable, I've yet to get to the bottom of the point where those things became a trigger instead of just a thing. But in that situation at that wedding, I had a trigger and I had a reaction instead of being activated by a situation that I know was going to make me feel uncomfortable and being able to respond with a positive action. So in my work with Kian, we worked to take a couple of steps to make me better at stepping into those situations. And as luck would have it, that wedding was on the Friday. We'd had the session on the following Tuesday, and I had another event to go to the following Friday. It was an engagement party, everything about the weddings. Unfortunately, my partner wasn't going to be coming to this one because there's a layer of this that's different when my partner's present. Because part of what I'm trying to do is make sure she has a good night. But regardless, we put a framework in place for me going to this engagement party. Number one was leaving my phone behind, or at the very least, completely ignoring it, because the phone can be used as a distraction tool to pull myself away from having to feel what I'm going through. The other thing that we did was work on finding a task that I could do, because what we identified is my way of finding comfort and finding value in a space is being able to have a task I can complete to feel that I'm bringing value to the place, which isn't always true. You don't need to bring value to every room. You don't have to complete a task and do something to help the whole group. But in this instance, for now, while we work through all of these things, it will be useful to hijack that loop in a positive way. So the task I was going to have was get to know at least one person that I don't know and find out something that I wouldn't know about them from just seeing them. And one thing that came up for me when we talked about this, Keenan suggested that as an idea. And my first thought was a bit Machiavellian because he was like, you should tell them this is what you're doing. And my first thought was, no, I'm going to engage the conversation in such a way where I can get that information without seeming like a weirdo going, I want to know something about you that nobody in this room knows. In identifying that, I don't know where that came from. Generally, I'm not a Machiavellian type of person. I'm pretty hard on my sleeve, tell you exactly what I'm doing, as you're seeing by listening to this or watching this, because we'll do this as YouTube and we'll maybe do this to Spotify. Instead, I decided to drop that Machiavellian thought and just tell people, listen, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it. Tell me something about yourself. I'm not going to go into what the person that I talked to told me because that person needed somebody to listen to them. They have a lot going on. And if you're listening to this, I gave you contact details. And if you want to talk, I am here. I am open. Let's talk about it. This person, right from the get, opened up and told me about deep trauma from early in their life, things that have hurt them massively, and what they're trying to do with themselves to get past it. They were perhaps in some form of an inebriated state. They said they weren't, but we know sometimes when somebody's on something, they don't want to admit it for whatever layered of reasons. From the perspective of my exercise of trying to find out something new, because I didn't want surface level conversations, in the energy of the universe, if you believe in that kind of thing, I drew in the ultimate depth that you could possibly ask for in a pub conversation. Because this person told me the deepest, darkest, hardest parts of their life, which is exactly the kind of conversations I like to engage in. And in that moment, they continually signposted to go, I'm probably oversharing here, I should stop. And I just told them, no, it's okay. I can hold a space for you. This is what we actually do in men's work, that when somebody opens up and wants to talk about something, if you have the emotional bandwidth to hold it for them and say, yeah, lay it on me, you getting it off your chest might be all you need to feel better about it. So I stood and I listened and I let him vent it out and put it out. And as dark as it was, it made me have a much more relaxed and grounded time at this event. In this case, I knew a good few people, some of my friends were there as well, but it's still that pub space. It's still chaotic to me. It was great to go through that. When I stepped back in with Kean the following week to kind of debrief on how things went, we ended up taking the session in a different direction because I thought that that session was going to be pretty surface level debrief of how things went, and that psychotherapy session might have been the biggest breakthrough that I've ever had in therapy settings, in breath work, in all of that. Because everything, when you start talking through emotional challenges and how you've gotten to where you're at, usually leads back to early childhood. And in every breathwork session that I've done, every ceremonial space that I've walked into, every guide, mentor, space holder has told me the same thing. And whether you believe in the esoteric spiritual world and what people can sense from you or not, I've had like 11 people in different ceremonies come up to me privately when they're holding the space and whisper, there's a father wound that you need to work on. I don't know if you know that already. And I'm like lying there doing my breath work, going, yeah, actually, you might be the eighth person to tell me that. That's what I thought I needed to work on. And I've been working on that a lot this year. There's still a lot to work on with my relationship with my father and all of that. I'm not going to go into the depth of it in this one. We might in the future when I've had a deeper conversation with him, but that's neither here nor there. The thing I never thought that I needed to work on was a mother wound. And not because I've always had a perfect relationship with my mom. I haven't. There was times when I was a teenager I was a little shit. She was trying to help me as much as possible, and like we all do, we go through phases of life where we're like, I don't want my parents around me. As we went through why I catastrophize and procrastinate and find ways to break down work tasks in a poor way. Because I actually, for framing before we go all the way in on this, we started on the anxiety of being in social spaces and we moved to something had evolved from talking about another wedding that me and my partner were at, where I felt that I let her down because I left her to conversations with people she knew to go and hang out with my brother for 2.5 hours. And when I came back, there was a lot of apologizing and making up for it, and me feeling bad after having apologized, acknowledged the problem, and looked for a solution. And we got stuck on that loop of Why do you seek to feel bad when you have already made a wrong right? And that led down this really interesting path of realizing that when I was a kid, my mother, through no fault of her own, at times would be upset. And this is still a story I'm imagining because I have to break this down with her. But at times as a child, if she was upset and it was nothing to do with me, my default, because we were a unit, me and my mom, together for a long time until my stepdad came into the picture, there was nothing else around to blame for why my mom would be upset. And when you're a kid, you don't have the emotional development or tools to understand that there could be so many things wrong. She could have just been having a bad day. But many times I thought it was my fault. So I would go through all of my actions in my head to go, I did this, I did that. Which of these things upset my mom? What did I do emotionally to make her feel bad? So I would go through this loop of I have to feel bad so she sees I feel bad so that she can see that I'm acknowledging I've caused her pain. When in reality, maybe she stubbed her toe, maybe she had a stressful day at work. There's all these different things that I could have never considered as a child, but this is ingrained into a pattern in how I think and how I operate that we're now going to work to completely smash that part of my operating system away because I should not need to appear to feel bad when I have righted a wrong. Because in the smallest instance of like those social situations with my partner, where I feel bad because I'm not engaging in dancing or I'm not standing up and being present in the room because I feel that I'm not giving my partner a good night, I make it my mission to be like, I'm going to make sure she knows I feel bad about this, which doesn't help my night, certainly doesn't help her night. And that was just a huge takeaway from that session that I had, which brought so much value. So I guess the reasons for pouring my heart and soul out into this monologue podcast that is now getting up on 30 minutes is if you are somebody, if you are a man who's scared of doing therapy but won't admit that they're scared of it, they're just like, no, I don't need it. I'm grand. There is unbelievable levels of value for you sitting down with somebody who has the professional background, understanding of the human psyche, not to break your mind down and rebuild you into something you don't want to be, but to give you a mirror to look at with a bit of guidance on where you need to look in order to operate at a level that you want. Because ultimately, every single man in this world has a mission. You have a purpose for being here. And if you're not standing up to that mission and leading yourself in an aligned way with who you want to be, it's not because you're lazy. It's not because you don't want it bad enough. It's more than likely one of two things. Either you don't understand what the mission is yet. So that might be one path. You don't know what you're supposed to be leaning in on. If you already are on this path, where you know exactly what you want to do with your life, but for some reason you don't do everything you need to do to make that life happen, it might require understanding, excuse me, how your brain works, how you view the world, and what patterns you keep repeating that are holding you back from absolutely nailing it and having everything you want and doing what you need to do with your life. And that's what I'm in the throes of doing at the moment. Because the Better Man program, as I put out there earlier in this podcast, is a big mission. It's helping a million men to be the best version of themselves with a higher purpose. All of us get drawn into politics, religion, and the dangers of the world and the catastrophizing of what's happening in the world. I get sucked into that, and I spent the best part of a year the first time I paid attention to politics being like, oh my God, the world is falling apart. What can I do to change the Middle East, to change the Russia conflict, to change all these different things that are causing the world to get a bit crazy and dangerous? And the honest answer to that is I can do nothing. I can't unless I get on a plane, reskill as a soldier, and go and start beating doors down and shooting people that want to shoot people. And that's not realistic. I can't do that for the whole world. I'm not Superman, much as I may like to be. But what I can do is work on a one-to-one basis with as many men as I can to make them a better person or to enable them to be the best version of themselves and be a morally upright, good standing member of society with the emotional development to understand how to respond to activations instead of continually reacting and causing more harm in the world. So, my mission of helping a million men to be the best version of themselves, it's not for me. It's not even for those million men. It's for the children that me and my partner are hoping to start having at the end of next year because I want them to grow up in a better world. And I can't change the world physically. I can't go and stop conflicts. I can't change what banks are doing, governments are doing, can't do any of that. But if I try hard enough to make a positive impact to a million men, to get them to be the best version of themselves, to be good men, not just to be passive, existing men. I know that every single one of those men will try their best to help every person they meet in whatever capacity they have, and it will be a better world for it. And I know that when I'm long gone, I will have left behind a world that my children can be happy, they can be safe, they can thrive in, and they will hold the values that I am working to develop in myself so that they take up the mission to make every person they meet better than when they met them. That whole idea of leave the world better than you entered it, if everybody leads themselves with that, we have a much nicer world to live in. Because so many people are stuck in the I, what can I can get? Even last night, as we were leaving the Jimmy Carr gig, when we got down to the car park, everybody's rushing and running and pushing past each other, and I need to get to my car first. And then when you get into the car, everybody is, I need to get out first, which results in nobody getting out first because nobody will let somebody out to turn. And I was sitting and thinking, and this is perhaps looking for depth where there's no depth. Like somebody that comes out of a funeral and puts a LinkedIn post being like, what business insights did I get from being at my great auntie's funeral? This is not that. This is a genuine moment of sitting and going, this is a perfect example of what I'm trying to fight against in this world. In that every single person in every single car was ruthlessly trying to edge out in front of the next person to just get out 60 seconds before them. Where if everybody in that car park went, go on, you move, go ahead of me, every car would have kept rolling and we would have been out so much faster. But also, people wouldn't have been sitting in their cars, white knuckling the steering wheel, being like, I'm not letting Mary over there get out in front of me. If they led with love in that situation and looking to help, would have been a much nicer experience. And we can expand that idea out across the world and society and what we do to small actions. Like when you're walking up to the door of a shop, if somebody is coming up behind you, it can be a really nice thing to just open the door and go on ahead. Or other small actions that I'm guessing most of the people listening to this are men. If any women are listening to this, it's a little bit crude, but men, some of you piss all over the toilet seat, piss on the floor when you go to a public toilet, and don't wipe any of it up. That is one of the most embarrassing things that my gender does. In the gym where I coach, it infuriates me. The teenagers, more often than not, but sometimes fully grown men, do this in a bathroom that's a unisex toilet where women use the toilet too and have no choice but to sit down on the seat. Pissing all over it and not cleaning up after yourself is the ultimate expression of I don't give a fuck about anybody except me. I'm in a rush, I'm going to piss, I'm going to look at my phone while I'm doing it. Maybe I'm going to put the phone down and vape while I'm pissing. Every time you go to the toilet, it's an opportunity for a very short, quiet moment with yourself to focus on nothing but the stream going where it's supposed to go. And if it misses, clean the seat up because you're trying to do it to do something better for the next person that walks in, even on a non looking to help people level. There should be some level of embarrassment to leaving that kind of mess for somebody else to clean up. If not, maybe we think differently. But Those couple of small things like opening the door for somebody, not leaving somebody else your mess all over a toilet seat to sort out. And if there is any ladies that were listening to it, I am sorry for the men that do that, or rather the undeveloped males that do that. Some of us are out here trying to do better. I think that might be a good place to close this. So, with closing it, if you didn't know who I was through this whole podcast, my name is Matt. I am the BetterMan coach. I run a men's coaching program that is founded in fitness. We are looking at that being a foundational part of your life. That if it's not a part of your life yet, when you enter the program that I run, we get you up to speed on that so that can become part of the foundation of who you are and how you operate your life. But once that ball is rolling, that's not really what the main focus of my program is. It's teaching you to use your emotions, or rather, teaching you to understand your emotions, giving language to it, giving you tools in order to navigate this world when things get stressful, giving you tools to be able to communicate better with your partner and show up better as a father. If you struggle with addiction, we've got some frameworks to help you on the beginning of that journey. I'm not an addiction counselor. I can't do that full journey with you, but I will walk through the doors of an AA or an NA meeting with you and hold your hand, literally if you need it, through your first meeting so that you can understand that those spaces are comfortable and welcoming and a place that can support you on a journey of becoming sober if it's something that you need. Essentially, I want this to become a one stop shop for men that want to be the best version of themselves in all areas of their life. If you are interested in working with me, the cleanest way to do this is to go to Instagram, the Better Man Coach, all one word. Send me a message, tell me where you're at. We will book in a quick chat to see if I can help you. If that seems a little bit too forward for you, in the Instagram, go to the bio, you click a link to get to the website, which is better-man-coach.com. There's a bit of fixing on that, so that's why I send you the Instagram, where you can see all the ways to work with me. There's a much less intensive version where you can join our Skool group community that's growing every day, where I put a whole bunch of courses available for you to work through all the things I've described and get the accountability of a group of men who are trying to do the same thing as you. I haven't even given this podcast a name yet. So for now, it's the Better Man podcast. It's on Spotify, it's on YouTube. I think it will go everywhere the podcasts go. I don't really know, but I'm going to do a weekly episode. I'm thinking I'll get a guest for next week, but we'll see what happens. Thank you for listening to me. I've been the Better Man Coach. You'll listen to me and see me on the next episode.